All right, welcome back, everyone. J-Mo for Smash This Podcast. Coming at you late on a Thursday. Blood Rain is in the chat. What is up? Eugene Evans. Vintage J-Bone. Yes. What is up, guys? So in my discussions on my show, and also, Andre was on with me last week. Excuse me. And I was also on with the Total Nonstop Act show with those guys. And it looks like I'll be returning with them very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Great couple of guys, Trent and Kyle. Trying to stay aware. Long day. So before I dive into this, Ronnie, what is up? Good to see you. So this is actually going to be a bonus for the Wrestling Addict Radio, seeing as it's TNA Impact, content. And I've been meaning to do this for quite a while. Dive into the old GWN app and watch classic stuff. And like I said, as I was talking with Andre and Trent over the course of a couple shows last week, I was like, okay, it's been a while since we've had Against All Odds. So I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to go back and watch some classic stuff? So I went and watched the first one from 2005. And I was like, man, going back to the early days of TNA, it's almost feels like another lifetime. I mean, a lot has happened to me since 2005, let me tell you. Won't get into that, but but seeing as this is for Wrestling Addict Radio, I just want to let you guys know, as I've been trying to promote when I'm on here, that the Rant Ant crew is and the Fourth Wall podcast are both doing shows in the area of WrestleMania next week. So please head over to their social medias for the Rant with Ant Gala information, which is going to include all the podcasts except for me. But it looks like the rest of the crew is going to be out there. I'll be supporting from over here. I'll be there. It's great bunch of guys, though. Fourth Wall's going to be there. Kings of the Ring, or the new and improved Kings of the Ring podcast. The Rant with Ant is all going to be there. Gift of Podcast. I'm forgetting someone. Oh, Not Your Mama Soap Opera is also going to be out there. So 2 separate shows going on. The Rant with Ant Gala and the Fourth Wall Podcast Tailgate. And that one is $5 to in, but they're raising all the money for a great cause. It's going to a local Ronald McDonald house, which is near and dear to guys. They've had experiences. I'm not sure. We won't get into the stories why, but they love the McDonald house from past family experiences. So they want to raise money for them. And I think that's tremendous. If you've been following my podcast a while, you know that the Rant with Ant crew has always been one for raising money for causes like that. So it's great to see someone from this group stepping up and doing that this season. So if you're going to be in the area and you're a fan of the shows and you want to donate just a few bucks to a great cause, They're going to have food and beer and drinks. You can hang out with the podcast, and it's just going to be a great time. I wish I could be there, but hopefully someday, we'll all we'll all we'll all get together. Um, so so on over to their social medias for all the because they're promoting it every single day, and I've been sharing it too. You can head to my Twitter page. I've been sharing it on there as well. So, hey, Mr. Fretz is in the chat. What is up? Did you watch it on GWN? Yes, I did. I'm trying to get my money's worth and watch some classic stuff along with the weekly explosions. Those are nice little episodes with some rare matches that you're not going to see on the regular Impact stuff, and it's also show a classic match too. So that's also a nice little plug for the app too, to look up, be like, oh yeah, I remember that match, and it makes you want to watch like the whole event. So I'm finally doing this. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Figured it was a great time to do it because Against All Odds is being brought back by Impact, as you Impact fans know. It's tomorrow night, so this is in honor of that. Yes, Blood Rain, it is. It is tomorrow night. Very excited for it. I don't think there's any titles on the line tomorrow night, but it still should be a good show because there's a lot of other stories happening that are either going to be wrapped up or they're going to continue on in a big way. Like the championship stuff, because Cross with, I like to call him Mundo because that's what he was with him before in AAA. But whatever, you know what I mean. We've got the story of Allie is going to get wrapped up tomorrow night. That's been crazy. The come to think of it, you know what? The Knockouts Championship is on the line, I think. Taya versus Jordan Grace. And that should be a great match. I can't wait for it. There's also more stuff going on with Gail Kim and Tessa. That's gonna go somewhere. So a lot of little different things happening in a big way, and it was just cool that they brought back a classic name while they were in Vegas. It was appropriate, because it has that gambling. Grace has a title. Yes, Grace has a shot. Yes. Yeah, she had the number one contendership match against Tessa, beat her. That's when Tessa flipped out, got attacked by Gail Kim, because Gail Kim had enough of her stuff, and that whole storyline expanded that way. So yeah, let's dive into this. And me suddenly do. I mean, I think I tweeted out earlier today. So by all means, if you guys have the app, go check it out. It's a nice little classic show. You see a lot of faces that we haven't seen in years, and some different faces doing some different things. And it was really cool to just go back, because I remember watching this live. Because it's, well, and one thing is, I've always been a huge fan of Kevin Nash. And I know Kevin Nash is not everyone's cup of tea, but when I got back into wrestling in the late 90s, in the midst of the Attitude Era, all I watched was WCW. I didn't watch WWF at all. So I was all pro NWO. I loved watching the incarnation of Sting, the different evolving door of the Four Horsemen and just everything. That was my tea. And whenever, Nash, clobbered a bunch of people, I was like, you know, that was a that was my stuff. Blood Rain says WWF was failing in the mid '90s, almost went bankrupt. Yeah, and there was a huge time in the '90s when I wasn't watching wrestling at all. It wasn't until I was working with a guy in a newspaper and he was telling me about the Monday Night Wars, and I was like, "Wow, that's kind of interesting." He's like, "Yeah, you should watch." And like I said, I didn't know anyone in the WWF at the time. All my favorites that I grew up watching several years before, Saturday mornings and WCW classic stuff, whatever, that was all, you know, they all went from and classic WWF guys, they went to WCW, you know. So let's dive into this. This was the first Against All Odds. This is when TNA really started getting cooking, and it was just on the tail end of that whole, I don't know what you call that era, when all the classic WCW guys were slowly being let go one by one by the WWF at the time after the invasion and all that stuff. Um, and all these faces started showing up on TNA, like, and it was all over the course of the last year, of course. But you had guys like Scott Hall, you had Kevin Nash, you had DDP. DDP still wrestled at this time. I was like, oh my God, DDP. I love DDP. Um, and there's a few other that show up at the end of this one that were like a huge pop and a big surprise. And we'll get into that when we get to that point. Um, Ruthless Aggression. Yes. Thank you, Blood Rain. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Right on the tail of that whole thing. The, the Kings of Wrestling, Jarrett Hall, Ash, not Claudio and Hero. Yes. Yes, those Kings of Wrestling with that horrible entrance music that they had. Ding, 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 ding. It was so, I don't know what. I loved seeing these guys in TNA, I still followed them. But I was like, man, this music and this entrance music sucked. Not that I was expecting a NWO ripoff, but something a little dirtier, a little sleazier, or something. It was like, it sounded like Charlie Brown trying to be a gangster, or me, trying to be a gangster. Whoa, that's scary, No, it's not very scary at all, is it? Yo, yo, yo. Speaking of yo, 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 we had a 3 Live crew in this show too. All right, let's dive into this. Like I said, this is All Odds, 2005. Classic TNA. Yes, I did watch it on the GWN app for those just tuning in. Gangsta J. Yeah, I'm so gangsta. This event starts off with Petey Williams. Classic Petey. I mean, this is all kind of classic, but I mean, Petey Williams has been performing an Impact off and on over the last year, coming back into wrestling and doing great until, Ross killed him. But here, this was 2005 Petey Williams. He was one of the best in the X division. And they made a point of saying that. I believe they said at this time he was a former X division champion, I believe. I know that the title changed hands a lot before they had a regular TV. I'd have to go back and look, who all had it first and whatever. But nonetheless, this was, I don't know if this was for a number one contendership. I think that's kind of what they were getting here. But it was Petey Williams versus another face I have not seen in years, Elix Skipper. Prime time Elix Skipper. One half of the, what was that? Triple X? Is that what they were? But I don't think they were together anymore at this point. But that was one of the tag teams I loved watching when I first started watching TNA in the early 2000s. Christopher Daniels and Elix Skipper and their rivalries with America's Most Wanted. See, I'm glad I wrote all this stuff down because I've tried to remember that tag team name before. I could not remember it for the life of me. It was some old show I was doing within the last year. Could not think of it. Bugged the hell out of me. Great match opening up this one, and just a classic example of, how many times they've opened up these big shows, the X division, to really fire up the crowd and just to put this part of their brand on this just tremendous. Primetime Elix Skipper comes out for the win here with a called the sudden death. Basically looks like the gravy train. Dummy, yeah. It's his version of it pretty much. So yeah, great to start off this event. Then we had a couple crazy tag matches here. We had Michael, Shane, and Kazarian, who were also two of my favorites at the time from the X division, versus the Three Live Crew. Except, this was strange. I don't remember all the details of this, but they did a nice little preview to, lead you into the match like, oh, this is why they're doing this. So yeah, it's that they did that, because otherwise I would have been like, what the hell is Jeff Hammond doing there? He was working out with the three, oh my God, Fluffer and Fuckatash. The Three Live Crew. It's a little bit of coffee. I swear to God, that's all it is. It's past my bedtime, apparently. Fluffer and Fuckatash. Jeff Hammond was part of TNA at the time, a sports announcer for NASCAR, and he was just doing some moves with the Three Live. Oh my God, I can't say it. Three Live Crew. I think it's because I watched R-Truth dance so much during this intro, and it just boggled my mind. So it was BG James and Jeff Hammond was with them, and it was just, it was comical. It was cool to see these guys. I couldn't take this too seriously, but it was great to see these faces again. Jeff Hammond actually gets the win here with an elbow called the pit stop. Too funny. I don't remember who he pinned. But it was just great because it was the classic. Conan comes out. Let me speak on this. Where my dog's at? Crowd goes, woo, 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 woo. That whole intro he did all the time when he came out with the crew. too damn funny. So yeah, it was just great to see that. And I was like, wow. And R-Truth is still dancing in the WWE. What do they call that? Dance breaks. He's still doing them. Crazy. Um, oh, that was also part. Oh, what I was thinking of the Jeff Hammond thing. That was also part of the Blood Rain. Yo, 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 let me speak on this oil of Olay. That's not it. It's oh, he'd be pretty pissed if he saw that. No, I think he would take it with a chuckle, I think. Um they had that deal with that was back when they were on Fox Sports, FS or FS1 Sports. That was their TV deal at the time. That was before they went to Spike. And I remember watching them. It was always on like a Wednesday, Thursday afternoon or something like that, at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. It was weird. Um, or maybe it was a little later. It was all right before dinner, and I'd watch it. So they had a crazy time, and that lasted like a year or two. But man, that was a crazy time. Um, I remember whatever version of SmackDown versus Raw I was playing, I would take all these guys and make them in my game. Crazy. Had the whole TNA roster. So yeah, Jeff Hammond comes out with a win with this one. Then this bittersweet. This made me, you know, put a little lump in my throat. I wasn't like, like turn up or nothing, but it was like I said, it was bittersweet. We saw Dusty Rhodes in the back. At this time in classic TNA, was the director of authority, if you will. And he had Trinity and Brooke, what's her neck, in the back of the truck with the hay. And they were his assistants. I don't know. But they showed him a couple times throughout the show. And I was like, oh, Dusty, we miss Dusty. He was such a great part of wrestling. He really was. He was wonderful. And some chump lawyer of Jarrett's, because he's defending his championship later, goes up to Dusty and tries to get him to sign some paper can take away this thing. The stipulation was if Jeff used his guitar during the match, he'd be disqualified and lose the NWA championship. Goofy. So this troll of a lawyer and him having an argument, and Dusty said something to the effect of, you could take your pick and shove it where the sun don't shine, if you will. Something like that. It was great. Then we had a knockdown, drag out match between Raven, always one of my favorites back in the day. I don't know what it was. If it was like his heavy metal rebel attitude that attracted me to him, but always loved Raven, no matter what inception of Raven or what group he had tied to him. Always dug him. He was going up against Dustin Jr., Dustin Rhodes, one of the versions of Dustin that was a little more plain, a little more Texas, not so gaudy with the makeup at all. Just came out with, wife beater jeans and some boots, ready to kick some ass. It was a stripped down version of Dustin, representing where he came from down south. A fun match between these two. Nothing really stood out too much. Just, cool to see these in action. Raven, of course, cheated with his feet up on the ropes when he was going for the pin. Got the 1, 2, 3, Austin. And then beat him down afterwards because that wasn't enough for him. Put him in a straitjacket and beat him up and more. Crazy. Then this made me chuckle. This made me chuckle a lot. We get the promo for Triton is coming. I wrote down LOL. Do you remember Triton? If you blinked it, they did like a month's worth of promos. Triton's coming. And then he showed up on TV and he lasted like a week or two, if that. And then poof, he was just like gone. I don't even know he had a match. I think he showed up and attacked like Monty Brown or something like that. I can't even remember. It's all fuzzy. I'd have to go back and watch. But damn, that was funny. I was like so excited for this big green sci-fi looking mysterious guy. And I don't think it amounted to anything. I don't even know who the guy was, But that was back in a time where the internet wasn't there was email and websites, but there was no social media to speak of at the time. That really blew up a few years later with the next 4 to 5 years. But looking at the chat real quick. The Dups? What? Myth Brooks. Yes. Eugene says, love the flux of Raven. Yes. That was great. He always had some kind of group going on in classic TNA. So, Raven wins this one, feet up on the ropes, and then beat down Dustin afterward. Oh, okay. We talked about Triton. Chuckle. Then we got the NWA Tag Team Championships on the line, held by America's Most Wanted. Love these guys back in the day. James Storm and Chris Harris going up against a couple of my, I kind of liked them. Kid Cash and was it his cousin? I think they said he was his cousin. I don't know I never knew if that was like legit or not, but I think they said it was his big cousin or something. Lance, no, what did they call him back then? I wrote down Lance Hoyt. What did they call him? Dallas back then? I can't remember. But now he's like all over the place. I saw him in Ring Warriors. He's been with Davey Boy Smith Jr. in New Japan. He's sort of a couple other places. Can't think of where. Archer, yes. Yes, he was called Dallas at that time. He's had a few different names. Can't remember what they called him in the WWE when they showed up there. Spent a couple years there. You know what? I think one of his last matches there was down in FCW with Dean Ambrose, come to think of it. Huh. Vance Archer. Yeah, that was another one of his names. Yep. So, and this was a really crazy tag match. Very violent. Some matches have a flow to them, like, oh, okay, they're, like they're almost choreographed. These guys were just falling down fighting. It was nuts. So that was actually really cool. I mean, these guys, it looked like they were like really hot, like pissed off hot. Uh, the first thing that popped in my head was the match between um, Johnny Impact and Austin Aries when they were fighting. That was stiff as hell. These guys were really going at it. Great tag team match, and that was one thing about TNA that I remembered. Their tag team division was always on fire. Always had great tag teams. Um, Whether it was these guys like America's Most Wanted that were tag team champs several times, or someone like the Three Live Crew that always switched off guys, always very very entertaining. Get the crowd all hyped up. Um, just so many tag team in their division back then. A lot of fun. Um, I think some of them came and went pretty quickly, but at this time, I think the show was they had a great roster back then. So yeah, America's Most Wanted comes off win here. Um, then we had a match, Full Metal Mayhem. And the object of this one, they had two envelopes hanging up, and one was a contract for a TV tape to go for the NWA championship against whoever was holding it, Jeff Jarrett or whoever. So Full Metal Mayhem, Jeff Hardy versus Abyss. Absolutely nuts. I mean, I've talked about my aches and pains on this show and my back and all that kind of stuff. And I was in pain just watching this match. I just cringe-worthy stuff that Jeff was doing to his body. Like, holy cow. I mean, it's, and he's had his ups and downs in his career, his dark moments, and stuff. And it's like, man, this guy put his body through so much. It's almost, you almost call it torture. One spot they fought up the ramp towards one of the entrances. He did something to Abyss, put him on the table. Jeff went to the outside of the entrance, climbed up to the top of it, so he's at least a good 10 feet above where the table is, and then swantoned off of it through him and the table. And just when he landed, was just, you could just, oh, like I said, just cringe-worthy, some of these moves they were doing. Another one, Jeff went, I think, like 10 tables in this match. It was ridiculous. Well, between the both of them, probably a dozen. Another spot, Abyss threw him like over his head from the inside of the ring to the outside of the ring, through a table, except 3/4 of Jeff's body landed on the concrete floor, only like part of his legs going through the table. And it was just, and what made it even more painful, I mean, in a positive way, of course, not knocking the announcers, but listening to Don West and Mike Tenay scream in response to some of these crashes that Jeff Hardy did. Unbelievable. They were just, you could just like pick their faces, because you're hearing the audio as you're watching this happen, and they're just losing their minds. They're like, oh my God, they're almost like Joey Giles, oh my God. Another spot, Jeff Hardy went through a set of 4 tables. There was 2 on the bottom and then 2 on top of those. So, like a square of tables. Jeff went through all of those. And that was I think that was how the match ended. He went through all of those. Abyss went up the ladder, got his contract, because the first one that Jeff Hardy grabbed down was not the right one. He grabbed the wrong one. Then, he screwed up and went through all those. So yeah, just a crazy. And there wasn't even a lot of blood in the match. Just the violence was insane. Blood Rain says Jeff Hardy's a crazy son of a bitch. He is. I don't know how he's doing what he's doing, but man, oh man. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if it's been made yet. Just thinking about WrestleMania, if he and the Usos are going to be going for the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And because the Usos already have 1 foot out the door, they're probably going to put it on the pre-show. If it's not been officially, they've been teasing it. We'll see what happens. Or who knows? Maybe they'll do the same thing to the Usos next week, like they just did to Asuka. And did you have a championship? No, I guess now you don't. Crazy. People just losing their minds over that one on social media I saw yesterday. What's next here? So yeah, Abyss beats Jeff Hardy, Full Metal Mayhem, gets the contract, and Jeff is so pissed off he breaks the rest of the tables on the outside of the ring. He's just ripping tables apart. He's so mad. Crazy. Then we have Team Canada. Eric Young and Bobby Roode. What the hell are those guys doing today? Going up against a classic team. I believe this is a one-off. Monty Brown and DDP, Don Dallas Page. Was so stoked to see. I loved Monty Brown. Comes out with that leather coat. And what was it? Oh, yeah. The Pounce. Period. He always threw that period at the end of it, didn't he? The Usos are leaving? Yeah, that's what the rumor is, Mr. Fretz. Everyone's saying that their contract is up at Mania, and I don't believe they're re-signing. You can't blame them. They've done everything in the WWE. They've beat everyone. They're not bringing any new teams up or anybody worthy to wrestle. If anybody's to blame for the rumors going around, it's their dad, Rikishi. He's putting little stuff on social media. Tired of being booked like crap. To be honest, their heel run was my favorite run of the Usos. I know not everybody likes the Usos, but I felt their heel turn over the course of this last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been, the best. When they just be themselves and just spit fire going out there. Yeah, I loved it. But anyways, back to this. Yeah, Monty Brown and DDP, kind of an odd couple of a team. Man, so much fun. I was forgot DDP was still wrestling at this time. I think this is right before he retired and made his what's that stuff he's got today? Oh, the DDP yoga. But this was his last run as a wrestler, I believe. And Monty Brown's hottest moment, I know he went off and did a cup of coffee with the WWE and then returned, I think, from what I remember. I don't think he's wrestling anywhere anymore for 10 plus years now. Great match. Great to see a young Eric Young and Bobby Roode, Team Canada, Who else was that? Oh, a young Scott D'Amore running around. Oh my God, that was hilarious. Marcus. Oh yeah, it was Marcus Corvon was Monty Brown's name in the WWE ECW version. Yeah, Marcus Corvon. Yes, and I was excited to see because I love Monty Brown. I wanted to see him and go on and do stuff Big E is doing right now. And I'm not saying New Day stuff. I'm just saying that level of success. That's what I wanted to see him do. And well, we never got to see that. Although I think he was in that Mania match. I think he did have didn't they have like an old school EW versus new school? And I can't even remember all the guys that were in there. Matt Stryker, Marcus Corvon, the Vampire Dude, and one other guy against the ECW originals, I think is what it was. God, I got to look that up. Anyways, great match between these two. Monty Brown and DDP get the win over Team Canada. Kevin Thorne. Yes, Mr. Fretz. See, love you guys. Love you guys. Always helping me remember stuff that I can't remember. Vampire. No, it was Kevin. Gangrel. Yeah, he might have been in TNA for a short bit. He might. Kevin Thorne's still wrestling though. He was just through town last year. Oh, House of Hardcore, Blizzard Brawl. I think Kevin Thorne. Yeah, Tommy Dreamer, and David Hero book him around the area from time to time. Continuing on with Against All, it's classic TNA from 2005. We get the last two bets here. The X Division Championship match. Oh man, if you guys watch this event for anything, if you don't want to sit through the 2.5 hours, just over 2.5 hours, whatever it was, if you guys sit down and watch anything from this, watch the classic X Division Championship match, 30-minute Iron Man rules match between AJ Styles defending against Christopher Daniels. Now, it's probably not their best match. I think one of the best matches that they've been known to have was same year, I think right after Samoa Joe debuted, this year or the next year, whenever it was very close to this date. It wasn't that far off. Those three against each other is known as one of the best ones, but this was still very good as far as a highlight from this. Highlight from this event was this match. They both at the end of 30 minutes had one. Christopher Daniels actually had Styles beat, and it was crazy because it was cut open. He had him in some kind of like chokehold submission at the end of the match, and as the timer ran out, AJ Styles passed out. Now at that point, the ref should have lifted up his arm, dropped it. I'm just thinking as a fan, dropped it, and that would have given Christopher Daniels one extra win because there was actually like a 2 second time difference from when he closed his eyes and passed out and the buzzer rang. So Christopher Daniels is all pissed, goes out of the ring, grabs a mic off her desk, and he's like, Dusty, get your ass out here. I want sudden death. Make it happen. And it was like an extra 5 or less minutes. And then Styles got the sudden death win. But man, the tension at the end of it's like, oh, I mean, is with no matter who you liked, if you really pick it apart, Christopher Daniels should have won that one. And I don't think there was anyone on this show I necessarily didn't like. Oh no, wait. I take that back. I loathed Jeff Jarrett. I didn't come to appreciate him until like years later as a performer and whatever. But man, at this time, I couldn't stand it when he was champion. But yeah, great X Division match. Match between Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles for the X Division Championship. If you, like I said, if you watch anything, watch this match. Just reading some of your comments, Joey Samoa. What? Love for Joe. Kind of like how Maria Kanellis was trying to recruit Allie to WWE but failed. Huh, interesting. I didn't hear about that. And then the last match, of course, which, take it or leave it. The end is what you got the pop from. But I was really rooting for Nash in this one at the time. I remember this was literally like Nash's last halfway decent run at wrestling because he had, what did they say? 14 surgeries on his knees altogether. I can't. How is the guy still walking? I don't know. That's just insane. Mind blown, folks. Mind blown. For the NWA TNA Championship, Jeff Jarrett defending against Kevin Nash. A decent match. I mean, for as good a match as you're going to get out of someone like Kevin Nash at the time. One thing he was very good at still, even though he may not have been a true wrestler, psychology. That was one thing that Kevin Nash was always very good at. Very fun part of this match was like halfway through it, Kevin Nash drug him out of the arena area to the back, trashed a food table, so food everywhere, and Nash is just beating him down in this pile of food in the corner. And they are like a ton, at least I'd say 3 or 4 dozen fans follow into the back area where security should have like held them back. No, they just all plowed through and followed. It was hilarious. I was like, oh, your security sucks. You would never see that today. It's but there was a different back then. They were really they were really hot for this brand, so they followed them. Or I don't know. But either way, it just was crazy how they all went backstage. And then Kevin Nash plowed through all of them again to get Jarrett back to ringside area. Jeff Jarrett won, of course, but not before we had interferences from a debuting the man formerly known as Billy Gunn. Completely forgot that. I was like, oh yeah, Billy Gunn. And he had a NIN shirt on that stood for oh god, I can't even remember what the hell it stood for. Kip. Yeah, Kip. But the verbiage on his shirt was something like, you already know who I am. No. Oh, no induction needed. That's what it was on his shirt. So he couldn't call himself Billy Gunn. And then from there started the whole storyline with him and BG James, aka Road Dogg, from the 3 Live Crew. So Billy Gunn interferes. The ref was out at this point, I believe. Billy Gunn runs down with something, chair, I believe it was, attacks Nash. So it was kind of like a DX NWO kind of thing, you know. He takes off. Jarrett goes for the win, doesn't get it. Ref gets knocked out again. Billy Gunn gets sent to the back. I'm trying to remember the order of all this. Billy Gunn gets sent to the back. X-Pac comes down the other entrance. People losing their shit, just like, you know, you remember how hype X-Pac was back then, bouncing around everything. He's so calm, cool, and collected now whenever he goes and makes appearances because he barely wrestles anymore, and he's got this past that he's just chill Pac, you know. But he was still really hyped back then. He attacks Jarrett, and then something gets fouled up, but nonetheless. So we get those, like the return of X-Pac and the debut of Billy Gunn. And the crowd just losing their ever loving minds. Jeff Jarrett retaining here. So yeah, it was nice to go down, what do they say, memory lane, and see some of these faces, because I love this brand back then. This is all pre-Hogan, when they were like trying to beat the WWE. At this point, they were just trying to be something different. It was a nice alternative. It really was. A lot of star power. Before the influx of a ton of WWE guys. Had a couple on the show, but this is before Booker T, Kurt Angle. Oh God, there were so many at one point. Christian Cage, the Dudleys. You know, this is before when it was still kind of pure, you know, when they had their own original talent being pushed and stuff like that. Before Blood Rain says, before Hogan brought his buddies in. Yeah. The only positive thing that came out of that was Jeff came back at that time. That was a positive surprise, I remember, from that date, and him sitting on top of the cage. Oh, Shannon Moore came in with him too. I always liked him too. So yeah. Dixie's WWE infatuation. Yes, Blood Rain. Yeah. Or their infatuation with trying to beat WWE at their own game, brother. So yeah, this was before all that. It was even before the Knockouts division. I don't think that came till a few years later. They had women on this brand, but they weren't I don't think they were wrestling or even taken seriously at that time. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for tuning in for this little trip down memory lane to look at a classic TNA Against All Odds in honor of tomorrow nights or whenever you're watching this. It's their Friday night show. Um, Against All Odds is going to be the wrap up of the Vegas tapings. So very excited that. And yes, Gail Kim. Yeah, exactly. Um, before she jumped ship 1,000 times. No, she's a women's wrestler. I just know she hopped brands a few times. Um, so yeah, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, if you tuned in late, just want to give it a quick plug again. Rant with Ant's got its gala this next weekend, WrestleMania weekend, and along with the Fourth Wall podcast, all part of Wrestle Addict Radio. All the guys from the podcast are going to be there, not including myself, but I still want to, do what I can to promote their events. Um, the Fourth Wall is raising monies for a great charity. $5 to get in. The money is going to, and it's not like, oh, a portion is going. No, all the money is going to a local McDonald's house, Ronald McDonald's house for kids. So, very, very happy that they're doing this event because there's so many great things going on next weekend. I'm going to be watching so much wrestling. My head's probably going to fall off at one point. Hopefully not while I'm live though, because that can get a little weird. If I'm just sitting here and I don't know what would happen then. Crazy. So yeah. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to smash that button, smash that sub button, and ring that bell for notifications so that you know when more of my content hits your screen. Oh, quick bonus note. Just found out that because this also is audio for Wrestle Addict Radio started out on iTunes. Then we brought in the Anchor FM, and it is now getting distributed to several other audio sites such as Stitcher, Spotify. Very excited that my podcast is on Spotify. I don't know. That's just when I found that earlier tonight, I was like kind of bouncing up and down a little bit. So excuse me for popping on that. But so the audio version of this is going to be found in even more places now for impact content for Wrestle Addict Radio. Wherever you listen to audio podcasts. Heard it's also on Google, but I couldn't find it on Google. I tried doing a search, couldn't find it, but I know it's on Stitcher. I think Podbean, Spotify, Anchor FM, iTunes. So at least a handful of different places, which is just tremendous. So spread the word to those of you who listen to the audio version of this. This is in even more places along with the rest of Wrestle Addict Radio. We'll see you guys again real soon. Don't know when I'm doing the Against All Odds review, but I am also going to be joining the Total Nonstop Impact guys again for this next review as well. So keep an eye out for that. And I guess this time they're both going to be on. It's not just going to be me and Trent. It'll be me, Trent, and Kyle. So can't wait to see what happens with that. That'll be reviewing Friday nights Against All Odds. That'll either be doing that Sunday or Monday, recording that. So I'll work mine around that, but it will not be tomorrow night, Friday night, if you're listening. Okay. So good night, folks. Take care. Have a grand weekend. And thanks for tuning in again. Much love.